the single biggest thing in my skating career towards getting me to be a better skater was to just work on balancing on one skate at a time. One skate at a time. And that was one of my coach's big rules. Her rule was skating is all about being on one skate or the other at all times. And never do you want to have both skates on the ground at the same time. And one of the reasons is that if you have both skates on the ground at the same time, obviously there's more rolling resistance, more wheels are in contact with the ground. But the most important thing is when you have both skates on the ground, chances are that your body weight is in between your skates. If you're skating like this, your body weight's in between your skates. So remember, you're not going to get 100% of your pushing power going through the bone that way. Yeah, you want to be on one skate or the other. And that was sort of the most difficult rule to adhere to when I was coached by Diane Holm, who herself was an Olympic ice speed skater and taught Eric Heiden. There were other things that she told us because she got so sick of telling her students to look up. Look what happens when I'm looking down at the ground, my weight's on my toes. And when your weight's on your toes, then you're very unstable. Has anybody ever had the speed wobbles before? Okay, so the easy way to get rid of those speed wobbles is to get your weight back on your heels. Because when you're on your toes, each skate sort of has a mind of its own, and it fishtails. One fishtails this way, and the other fishtails the other way, and pretty soon you're having a hard time skating. So to get rid of those speed wobbles, you really just want to get your weight back on your heels, and you plane forward with stability. Very big thing. It's easy when you're skating to get seized by fear, yes? And so you have to just be able to let go and remember these simple things like get my weight back on my heels, and then all of a sudden everything will be okay again, and you'll be able to think clearly. Yeah. So she would be so tired of telling her students to look up that she would say, no, your shoelaces are not coming untied. And she would tell that to her students, and they knew that she meant to look up that way. So there were other things that she would tell us, and that would be, she would see her skaters doing this. They would be swinging their arms and pretending like they are eating ice cream every time. And she would say, no, you don't want to do that. If you swing like this, then it brings your body up and down. And you want to pretend like you are throwing a cup of water forward and grabbing hold of a rope and pulling back on the rope. And that way, you're keeping your momentum traveling in a straight line. Because look, if I swing my arms up here and back here, then what does it do to my body? It makes it go up and down and up and down. And if we want to practice the principle of least work, we want to do all our stuff from the hips down. And we also want to swing our arms so that we travel the beeline. Because if we cross our body, then it takes us from side to side, which kind of looks cool and it feels good to go from side to side, but it's not a very efficient way to travel the shortest course to the finish line. Yeah. So I want to talk about something that really rocked my skating world, and that was the idea that 90% of your power doesn't come from the internal strength in your legs. Like most of us think, the stronger I am, the faster I'm going to go. That's not true. It's how you harness something called gravity. You get 90% of your power from gravity instead of from the power inside your legs. So the more tired you are and the more you feel like you can't go on, the more you have to rely on gravity and be lazy. And I want to show you how to use gravity. Mark, will you come up here and help me demonstrate? What Mark is going to do here is he's going to anchor himself like the Rock of Gibraltar. Everybody knows what the Rock of Gibraltar is. So as the Rock of Gibraltar, I'm going to try to push over the Rock of Gibraltar, first using my leg strength alone. So that means I'm going to get in my vertical position here, and I'm going to try to push. Not happening. Okay, so that's just using the internal strength in my leg. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use gravity. So I'm going to keep my knees together here, and I'm going to lean in towards him and load up with knee bend, and then easy to push him over. Very easy to push him over. And you can probably feel the difference between the push like this, which most of us try to just muscle it out and push, push, push. But if you can first let gravity do the work for you, so you let gravity accelerate you and then push, you go so much faster. And this is the hidden power in your hips. You may not know that it's there, but it is there. Thank you so much. So what we do when we skate is we actually play a little game, a game of trust. And you all remember that game of trust you played as kids, where you put your arms out, you maybe closed your eyes, and you fall backwards, and you hoped, and you prayed that they caught you. Right? Remember that game? Anybody ever played that before? You find out who your friends are pretty quickly that way, huh? So this is a game of trust that you play, but it's with yourself. And what you do is you start and you fall, and you delay the moment at which you set your skate down until the last possible second. And that way, you let gravity do the work for you, and it accelerates you literally to the center of the earth, and you have to counteract that falling with your push. And when you can start your push with a fall, you will notice that you just get the free speed that you've always been looking for. And I got my start chasing the California Berkeley women's cycling team through the hills of Berkeley, California. And I started off just chasing, doing everything I could to keep up with them. And I found that when I was falling out of the draft, when I was losing the draft, all I had to do was start getting my hips working for me again and let gravity do the work instead of the strength inside my legs. And all of a sudden, I was back up in the draft. Miracle of miracles. So it may be a difficult thing to start because this game of trust, you want to stick your foot out and land because you feel like there's nothing there to support you. So that's the natural tendency, is to put your foot down as soon as possible. But if you can delay the moment at which you put your foot down, you will find that you just accelerate and you get this free speed. And that's really fun, free speed. Nothing like it. Yeah? So a few things we've talked about today. One is that you want to exercise the principle of least work. And that means finding your balance. So at all times you're able to draw a straight line, nose, knees, toes. And that way you'll learn to ride instead of the inside edges of your wheels, you'll ride the center seams and you'll save a lot of energy. Who here has heard of the double push? The double push. Yeah, it's not a mystery. You know all what a crossover is, right? Let's see if I can do a crossover here. Here's a crossover, and another crossover. So this crossover push, right here, is exactly the same as the double push. The double push has been invented by the Dutch in Holland to cope with skating in the rain. Believe it or not, the double push was invented so that people can skate in the rain, because you know how in the rain you lose a little bit of traction there at the end of your stroke. Yeah? So you want to make up for it with a little push underneath your body before you take your regular push. So the double push is a crossover-like push followed by a regular push. And if I were to do a kind of a crossover and then a regular push, there's a double push. Check it out. Under push and regular push. That's a double push, but your leg is held back behind you. Under push and regular push. And if you could do that little crossover push underneath your body before you take your regular push, you actually add on to your skating speed. Yeah, so the double push is a fun way to increase your skating speed and also to cope with skating in the rain. Now I know it's not going to rain tomorrow, but supposing it would rain, just supposing it were wet, how would you go about skating the course differently? Well, number one, you're probably not going to skate in your super duper low sprinter knee bend angle. You're not going to be down here at 90 degrees or 89 degrees or 72 degrees. You're going to be up a little